7:40, the one time in my life I was early. I hadn't seen you since. You crushed me, took a good heart and made it mincemeat. I don't know how I'll react. I've been pacing.
That is Newfoundland's Carolina East with Wish I Never Met You. And she's doing something really unique and possibly trend-setting after her father lost most of his hearing. She's now an advocate for ASL interpreters at concerts. She says even though people may be hard of hearing, they can still enjoy the experience. And she's challenging other artists to follow suit. So for more on this, guess who I'm joined by? Carolina East herself. I saw you kind of jive into your own music there. I was too, just because it is quite good.
Well, thank you, and I'm so happy to be here this morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Let's talk about why you decided that it was important to have sign language at musical concerts.
Well, my father, over the last few years, he has had moderate to severe hearing loss, and it's only been recently that we really knew how much hearing he really didn't have anymore. He was treated by Krista Hearn at Quality Care Hearing here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And when he got suited with his hearing aids, which are from Widex, he, the first moment that she turned them on, she played one of my songs for him. And my father became very, very, very emotional. And it was only the conversation, once we got into the car after the appointment that I realized how much he had missed. I don't even think he had really, up to that point, I don't really think he had heard my voice at full capacity or my music. So that was very eye-opening for me.
Oh, wow. Now, you explain it like when you heard how your dad actually hears, like having a pillow muffling the sounds of his ears.
Yeah, so that's the way that my father described it afterwards. And my dad, he's a wonderful man. He's very quiet. He never complains about a thing. So we had no idea. The only thing that gave us any indication, and myself in particular, was the fact that, Dad also plays, he's a musician too. That's where I get it from. He plays accordion very well. I haven't heard him play in years. He's hilarious. He's also very, he's the life of the party, but he started to become very quiet and very almost reclusive at family events or functions. So then I said, you know what, we got to figure out what's going on and get him back to his good old self. Shortly after that appointment, when his hearing aids were turned on, I played a show in a place called Ochre Pit Cove, which is just a little bit outside of St. John's. And there was, this is where I met Triangular Communications, the ladies that do ASL here in the city. And Danica was one, of course, and we're working together on this project as well. And there was a man in the audience who, he was up there in age a little bit, I would say in his 70s. And maybe even 80s. And he was completely deaf and he communicated through sign language. And she did ASL throughout my whole show that evening. And he came up afterwards and expressed his gratitude of how, he was able to really partake in the show and he never missed a beat. And then I was like, all right, well, we got to make some changes here.
That is so lovely. When you were talking, like I was talking to you a bit earlier, do you hear that, that fella that was at your concert, did he also feel the music? Because, you have the person signing it, but also, with the beat and everything, did they say they could feel it?
Oftentimes, I think it might be different for everybody, but oftentimes that is the case. Like you can feel the beat of the bass of the music. Another thing too is there, a lot of people who are hard of hearing are they're able to really sense what you're projecting just based on facial expressions and sometimes lip reading. But some of the songs I do are just way too fast for anybody to lip read, to be honest. So yeah, it was again, so eye-opening.
I was reading the article about this as well, and what I find fascinating for someone who is signing as well, it's how they use their facial expression when doing the songs as well.
Absolutely, and again, that was another thing I was completely oblivious to. I thought when somebody performs sign language to, music or any type of literature whatsoever, that it is verbatim. And what Danica has taught me is that that's certainly not the case. They have to take the piece of art or the, the music or the lyrics, and then they have to almost reassess them and put them in the language of ASL. And that's also very taxing on them. And then they have to perform it and make sure when they're signing it for everybody that they're able to emote the same emotions that I'm trying to emote, whether that's happiness, sadness, whatever the case may be. And it's very taxing on them as well.
Yeah, so cool. How hard is it to find someone to sign for a performance?
It's really not. The issue isn't the issue isn't finding somebody.
Yeah.
The issue is the cost associated with it. And the cost associated with it is very necessary. Unfortunately, not all artists would be able to afford an additional, it could be upward to $700 or $800, depending. So my goal right now, and I'm working with MusicNL, I'm working with Quality Care Hearing, Widex, and I'm going to reach out to the government, both federally and provincially, to see if there's some sort of fund that we can create to give every single artist across Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, especially the East Coast of Canada, the opportunity to have ASL at all of their shows. I would also like it if, Factor could join in and help us with this initiative, and ensure that at all of our award ceremonies like the Junos, the East Coast Music Awards, MusicNL, and all of the other provincial music associations are able to access this as well, because it's very necessary. I did a show the other Wednesday past, or 2 weeks ago, and it was unbelievable. I had the ASL members there. I had Danica and Sheila from Triangular Communications. The outpouring of love and support and gratitude that I received from the hearing impaired community blew my mind. I think I had an additional 150 followers within 5 hours. This is an industry, or this is a side of the industry that we really need to have inclusivity. And I'm really challenging the government to help me with that as well.
I think that's a really good push. And just before I let you go, one of the things you're talking about your dad, who really, you didn't know he was becoming more reclusive because you were saying, you tell me the reasons why, but a lot of my friends who have hearing problems as well stop involving themselves. This is a way to bring them back.
Yeah, I can only speak on my father's journey on this whole thing. He found it embarrassing that he couldn't hear people speaking to him, even directly to him. And he was embarrassed to say, "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" And sometimes he'd have to do that 3 or 4 times. So he just stopped. There was a lot of head shaking and smiling and nodding, and that's not my dad. My dad is hilarious. He's always involved in conversation, life of the party. And yeah, we saw that. And apparently, from the little bit of conversations that I've had so far, and I intend to have many more, that's common with a lot of people who are losing their hearing. It's the feeling of embarrassment. It's, hearing things incorrectly, and you might think that somebody has insulted you, but they may have said, "How are you today? Good to see you." So there's a whole pile of things that I had no idea of until I've gone on this journey with my father. So, and it's hard to tell I'm dad's girl, isn't it? Hard to tell.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and tell your dad hi for us here as well. And what a nice cause you're doing here.
Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate you letting me come on and speak about that. And I'll keep you guys posted, because I think we're going to be making some big moves.
Absolutely. You stay in touch. Carolina East, we're going to end with a little bit more of your music as well.
January 29th, 7:40. The one time in my life I was early. I hadn't seen you since you crushed me.